What is going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be doing an itemization guide on Beastmaster and pretty much any type of offlaner that is a summons hero. But in this video I'm actually not going to be playing Beastmaster or showcasing him as a summons hero. We're going to be building him a completely different way, and I want to show you guys the benefits of this itemization and how you guys, if you guys are newer to Beastmaster, you guys can play him this way and get a lot more impact out of the hero and just have an overall better time than your regular push type Beastmaster builds, which I honestly think are pretty out of meta and are pretty terrible right now. So hence why I decided to go a different itemization route. So in the laning phase, as you guys can see, it is a carry bounty hunter. Now a carry bounty hunter might be a little bit weird for you guys, but this hero actually does quite a bit of damage. It's not the best carry, but it is a pretty annoying lane. There's a lot of physical damage coming out of this lane. So the first thing I wanted to do is make sure I had a stick and I had some stats, and I ended up going for a vanguard. I knew that I needed to sustain that most of their damage was going to be physical but also magical, but in general the vanguard is going to help me a lot. You could have gone double bracer as well, that's definitely up to you, but I wanted to make sure that I could be able to jungle a lot more efficiently and not really have to worry a whole lot about my regen. So situationally I will play vanguard on the Beastmaster. I definitely think it's very underrated to go this item build on this hero. A lot of people are very cookie cutter when it comes to Beastmaster and they like to play him with pretty much the helm of the dominator and things like that. I definitely enjoy the vanguard or the double bracer. It's definitely very dependent. If there's going to be a lot of physical damage, a lot of harassment coming in, I definitely want to have that extra sustain coming in from the vanguard, and if I do need to fall back on the jungle, I will be able to do that much more effectively than with double bracer. Just that huge amount of regen is going to be really nice, and I'm going to be able to tank a lot more in the laning phase, especially if your support abandons you, which is the case for me. I ended up being solo for a few minutes. I ended up dying quite a few times. I did play a little over aggressive in this lane, but when my support was there, I did take full advantage of it, and we ended up getting quite a few kills in this lane, and it was quite nice to be able to stomp on this lane because the mid lane was going very well for them. This arc warden was definitely shitting on our team, and I knew that was going to be quite an issue, but I know the matchup of Beastmaster versus arc warden is pretty good in my favor if I can keep up with the farm and the XP. If the arc warden is able to absolutely get a ton of farm and a ton of XP over me, even with the double Midas, it's going to be a really big issue for me to take care of this hero because it's just going to have so much more farm than me, and that can become a problem. So my itemization build in this game, other than the vanguard, it was the mana boots. I know I needed to sustain and I needed to be able to get as many spells as possible, and I needed to be able to spam my axes. Axes are a really good tool, not only for you guys to secure last hits in lane, it also helps you get a ton of extra damage as well because they just stack, and if you end up taking the talent at level 10, it is really nice. If you guys don't see yourselves right clicking as much, then definitely make sure you take that axe amplification, as it is really nice, and it can be really good for defending high ground if you do see yourself being in that type of a situation. So in this game I decided to go for that, and the 30 damage was definitely not necessary for me. We had a lot of right click damage and I just needed to be able to sustain, and those 30 points of right click were not going to be a really big issue, and I didn't really need it. So the amplification was a lot better, and with this arc warden just scaling and being out of control a little bit, being top net worth, it was a really big issue because my drow didn't really have the start that we needed her to have, and it wasn't a really free drow game. They had a lot of ways to get on top of her. I ended up going for the drums of slamm just because it's honestly the best build on Beastmaster. You guys can let me know in the comments what you guys think. The last time I did a Beastmaster video, you guys definitely were very mixed on your opinions on Beastmaster. Some of you said that he was garbage, some of you said he was really good. So honestly, it's a very mixed bag. I think the hero is really strong if built correctly and played correctly. You definitely need to know your limits on the hero and know exactly how you can push with the hero, and I don't mean taking down towers, I mean taking the right team fights. This hero is definitely kind of greedy. It's not the type of hero that you just want to go in all the time. You want to be able to take that farm, you want to be able to take that unsafe farm, so your carry can actually take the safe farm, which is how it should be for pretty much any offlaner. That's pretty much what I did this game. I was taking a lot of farm that the enemy was definitely contesting most of the time, and every time I got the opportunity I went for this arc warden. I was just up in his face constantly, because if you guys know anything about arc warden, the hero does a stupid amount of damage, but if you get on top of him he can easily get destroyed. The hero is always going to be quite frail, quite squishy, so going for a blink dagger was definitely very necessary for me. It was one of the key steps to actually winning this game because we had no real good way to actually initiate. Yes, we have swap, but that's pretty much it. Drow is not an initiator, neither is Shadow Fiend, neither is Dazzle. So my job this game was not only to sustain through the team fights, it was also to get that initiation, especially onto the Arc Warden. The Bounty Hunter was never a really big issue. yeah, the hero does a lot of damage, but he's also quite frail. But the Dragon Knight as well was not really doing a whole lot, and these matchups are pretty good for Drought. I just need to make sure she is protected and she does have that setup to be able to lay in with those frost arrows, and that was pretty much my job. So you guys can definitely look at your matchups and see what can actually happen in the game. What are your matchups going to be like, and what is your carry matchup going to be like? If your carry matchup is quite easy, then focus on buffing them. Make sure they're going to make it even better and they're going to have an easier time to actually get that matchup going. And if it's a really difficult matchup, then you need to make sure you make that matchup as playable as possible. So build your items accordingly. I ended up going afterwards for a BKB. They have a ton of lockdown and magical damage that I definitely want to get rid of, but every opportunity that I can go for a solo kill onto this Arc Warden who got a little overconfident in my opinion. This guy could have been playing a lot safer than he did, because a lot of people don't really know the big powers of Beastmaster. They just see a hero that has a few summons and that's about it. They don't see the actual true power level of the Drums of Slamm. At the end of the game, I did the most damage, and this is with a Drought on my team, which Drought usually takes over as the damage. So having the highest damage numbers in the lobby really kind of shows you how powerful the Drums of Slamm are. So if you guys are not building Beastmaster this way, I highly recommend it. For me, it is the best way to currently play this hero. I don't think you guys should be building Zoo. I think Zoo meta is quite dead. It's definitely not good, so you guys should not be playing that. The next item I went for is the Blade Mail. Now you guys might be thinking, well, why would you go for Blade Mail? Well, this game we were actually behind pretty much the entire game, and the Arc Warden was getting stronger, and they have a lot of uncontrollable damage that I'm able to take to my advantage. And if the Arc Warden does decide to man up on me, it can be a really big problem for him, just because that Blade Mail damage is going to be nice, and he's going to be ticking away from Flux. There's just a lot of damage over time these guys have, so it's a really good pickup, and it's a very cheap pickup that you guys can always pick up, especially if you do realize that you're going to be defending high ground pretty soon, because I really thought this game they were going to be tipping high ground quite easily. So I definitely wanted to make sure I had the items to back me up, and it was just going to overall help me do a lot more damage in the team fights and be able to just man fight them. And with the help of the healing from the Drums of Slamm and the Kai Assange, I was just able to sustain a lot during the fights. Even when my Dazzle was not available, he wasn't able to help me out. I was still getting a ton of healing done, so it was very difficult for the enemy team to actually commit onto me, and I was just there with the Drums of Slamm doing as much as I could and pretty much putting my team on my back and pretty much giving them a way out. And another thing is, a lot of players actually don't realize when they're playing a game of Dota is there is a time to get into a team fight and there's a time to get out of a team fight, if you could. Obviously sometimes you will die, sometimes you get stunned on your way out, but a lot of team fights actually end up going the wrong way just because you're overcommitting, because you see that ancient or you see that extra tower. Sometimes it's easier to take the farm. So I do recommend you guys take a lot more of a look at the minimap, and that is something we can all work on. I don't care if you're immortal, I don't care what rank you are, you guys should be looking at the minimap constantly, because you're going to be able to see a lot of things. The minimap gives you the most information possible. So if you guys see that you're losing a team fight, find a good position to TP out, and if you have been looking at the minimap, you will realize that there is a big creep wave coming in, or there's an ancient stack that you can take. There's a lot of things you could do on the map, or maybe the top lane is pushing and you guys can take a free tower after that team fight because the enemy heroes reacted to you, so their TPs are on cooldown. This is all information you guys can take and use it accordingly that a lot of players typically don't use. They kind of just tunnel vision and forget about the rest of the map. You know you can easily get out. They choose not to do it. They choose to overcommit. They choose to throw on the high ground. And honestly, this patch, most fights are either won or thrown on the high ground. If you end up winning that high ground fight, you're going to be taking a few sets of racks. If you end up losing the fight on the high ground quite consistently, you lose a couple of fights on the high ground, you can actually just lose the game. So feeding a high ground is definitely not a good idea, and please make sure you guys are getting pickoffs before you end up going high ground. So in this fight, we ended up winning this team fight off a really strong initiation, and we got rid of some of their strongest targets, and now they weren't able to contest this Roshan. This Roshan is really free. I ended up taking it for myself because I was pretty much the one soaking all that damage, and I was initiating super hard. I really wanted this Aegis. My team was definitely okay with it, so it's not like I just told them, hey, it's my Aegis, I'm gonna do whatever I want. They were actually okay with it. They also recommended that I should take the Aegis, and that is something you guys should also talk with your team. If you guys are a mid laner or an off laner and you guys are having a huge amount of impact, or you guys are soaking the brunt of their damage, then definitely ask for Aegis, unless it's a really good Aegis carrier like maybe Storm or Leshrac and heroes of this nature. But definitely talk to your team and ask them if they're okay with you taking the Aegis. At least try it once, but if you guys are feeding the Aegis away, it's definitely not a good idea. So please make sure you're using the Aegis optimally. And in this case, it just allowed me to just constantly push for the win, and it really facilitated this win for us. So I hope you guys learned something. If you guys did, a like would be much appreciated. And if you guys want to see more itemization guides on certain heroes, I would definitely like to know in the comments. So let me know which hero you guys would like for me to cover next. Definitely Beastmaster, you guys should be playing it. If you guys are an offlaner, definitely put this hero in your hero pool and stop playing it like the summons. Play it with the drums of slamm and build it accordingly. Play it with a blink dagger and play it like a playmaker. You can do a lot of things on this hero, and it's just not your average cookie cutter hero anymore. I think you can play it a lot faster and you can do a lot more things on the hero. I have been having a blast on this hero, and I'm pretty much spam picking it nonstop, and I end up winning 80 to 90% of my matches with the Beastmaster. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.